We welcome back our CAA men's basketball insider, Eamonn Brennan. And Eamonn, the last 2 weeks, a lot of excitement going on around the CAA, but the headliner has to be the Hofstra Pride. 8 straight wins for Hofstra. They're 1 win away from clinching their 2nd straight CAA regular season outright title. What has gone right for Hofstra? I know we talked about DeJour Bowie and Eli Pemberton, but really it's the supporting cast around them have really stepped up.
Yeah, they have. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. We have talked about DeJour Bowie and Eli Pemberton a lot this season, and they've been great. DeJour Bowie especially has been a fantastic two-way player. As we've mentioned in the past, has emerged from last year's Conference Defensive Player of the Year to really take on a big offensive load this year. Eli Pemberton is doing his thing as usual. But Jalen Ray, Trey Coburn, and Isaac Conte, you look at the way Hofstra is put together, and I think it's really impressive because those 5 guys are all in double figures scoring. They're all among the top 25 scorers in the league, and they all play big minutes. It's a short rotation. You look at their percentage of minutes played, and all 5 of those guys are above 72% in terms of minutes played. It's a short rotation, and for some coaches that might be a bad thing, but I think there's also an argument to be made that the tighter and shorter you keep that, the more coherent you are, the more cohesive you can be as a team. And I think that's what we're seeing from Hofstra, particularly on the offensive end, where they are flirting with sort of top 50, 60 adjusted efficiency in the country, not just obviously in the league, where they're the best offensive team. So it's been a really impressive season, and I think it's been fueled not only by the star guys who are going to get the postseason awards, but by the entirety of that starting lineup and how they've really all put it together.
And even this team, like we said, is 1 win away from clinching their 2nd straight CAA regular season title. And if they were to do that, they'll be only the 6th team in program or 6th team in CAA history to have done that. How tough is it to be the preseason favorite and then still be able to come out on top in any league?
Yeah, I think it's very difficult in any league. I think everybody knows. Everybody's going to be up for you every night when you show up at an opponent's gym. It's not just another game. There's a little bit of extra, maybe 3% or 5% that the teams might put into it, knowing that you're supposed to be the league leaders. So yeah, I think it's really impressive. Win over UCLA. You look at that win against UCLA now that the Bruins are streaking. It's actually a really good win for Hofstra. Really good win. A really good win for the league. And I think if you look at Hofstra in general, sort of their efficiency numbers, their metrics numbers, in a league where we started out this year after the non-conference season saying, wow, all these top 5, 6 teams in the league are all kind of in the same spot. You look at Hofstra now, and they're very nearly a top 100 team in adjusted efficiency. It's a real sort of pulling away, I think they've done as the clear best team in this league. And now the only thing left is to finish the job in the regular season.
Absolutely. And the team that will be trying to chase them here in the last week of the regular season will be the William and Mary Tribe. And kind of a bounce back for William and Mary since the last time we talked to Eamonn. They've now won 4 straight games, and they're within 1.5 games of Hofstra. What have they done well here in the last few weeks?
Yeah, I mean, the last time we talked about William and Mary 2 weeks ago, it was not a particularly good time for the Tribe. They were really struggling. So it was a rough start to February and really late January, 5 losses in 7 games. And I think we sort of thought at the beginning of the year, or at least as we got into January, hey, this William and Mary team might actually be the one to take Hofstra down. That hasn't materialized, but they have put it back together. 4 wins since that loss at Wilmington. Much better on the offensive end, and I think that's what you're really looking for William and Mary, because it's a team with the best player in the league and a really interesting sort of 2 big attack with Nathan Knight and Andy Van Vliet. And Nathan Knight continues to be an absolute beast. He's been a constant throughout the year. Luke Loy is giving them more offense in addition to his defensive work, which is always excellent. His sort of ability to be a very efficient, low volume sort of 3-and-D perimeter shooter, scorer guy, glue guy on the offensive end has been a real boost in these last 4 games. And William and Mary, I think now you could say are probably on the right track. It's going to be really interesting to see in Nathan Knight's last year, sort of a totemic player for the program. It kind of all comes down to this, both finishing the regular season strong, but also heading into the CAA tournament strong, and really making the most of having Nathan Knight on your campus really for the last few games he's going to be available.
And the other headline going into the last week of the season will be that race for the probably the next most important spot outside of winning the regular season is the 6th spot in the standings, because it keeps you out of the first round and you're playing 3 games in 3 days instead of 4 games in 4 days. First, talk about the importance of that, and then it's coming down to 2 teams, Northeastern and Elon, and let's begin with the Huskies, and obviously being led by Jordan Rowland. They own the 6th spot right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, it doesn't take a high-level basketball analyst, which I would not claim to be in any case, to know that if you want to get to the NCAA tournament, it's a lot easier to win 3 games in 3 days than to do 4 games in 4 days. You just add another level of challenge, another team that's trying to beat you, another game in which a shot can rim out at the buzzer and things can go wrong, or your best player can have an off night and it just doesn't happen, and then that's that. No surprises, everybody has a chance to get in the NCAA tournament, but you have a much, much better chance if you only have to play 3 games in 3 days as opposed to that extra 4. The first that makes sense is Northeastern, which has one of the best players in the league in Jordan Rowland. We've been talking about him all year long. He is just a fantastic, fantastic offensive player. Huge volume, but super efficient. Really the best combination of those 2 factors in terms of high efficiency, but taking a lot of shots and handling the ball all the time. Maybe in the league, maybe right there with Nathan Knight. Super, super player. And Northeastern's won 3 out of 4 now, put itself in position for the bye. And Rowland has continued to bring it every night and has really powered them to that position where they might be able to get that. The team we don't expect to be in this conversation is Elon, where Mike Schrage has just done an incredible job with a lot of young guys who we've been sort of talking about all year, plus Marcus Sheffield, senior transfer from Stanford, who's had a really nice year, sort of as the core of that team, which you expect to improve in years to come, but this is sort of his last go at it. They've had a fantastic run in the second half of the season, and it's sort of out of their hands. If Northeastern beats JMU Thursday, then this is kind of moot, but it is a possibility still as we're speaking today, and that's incredible from a team in Elon that I don't think really anybody expected all that much of, and a team with a lot of young guys that have sort of figured it out as they go along this year.
Should be fun to watch to see who comes out in the top 6 there in the standings as we head to the conference tournament in DC. And let's move on to some postseason awards. Yet we're another week away from those awards coming out. So if the season were to end today, Eamonn, let's first look at what your all-CAA second team would look like here from the CAA, like I said, if the season were to end today.
Sure. So for my second team, I've got Eli Pemberton from Hofstra. Solid scoring for the second year in a row. Really important piece and a very good team. I've got Marcus Sheffield from Elon, who we just spoke about in regards to Elon, but has been a really nice player for them, taking on a lot of responsibility in a young team and seen them into, very nearly a first-round bye in the conference tournament. James Butler, Drexel, lead the league in rebounds, probably the best rebounder in the league, with the possible exception of Nathan Knight. Alan Beatran from Towson. Towson having a really nice year under the radar here, 17 and 12 overall. Third in the league standings at this point. Very, very solid season, overall, particularly once they got into league play from the Tigers. And then Matt Lewis from James Madison. James Madison having a tough year, but not really Matt Lewis's fault on that front. Has taken on a ton of possessions, and Lewis has been really solid throughout. So that's my second team. There's probably some spoilers in there for the first team, but maybe not, because I feel like the first team is pretty codified.
And speaking of the first team, let's take a look at that first team. If the season were to end today, who would be the top 5 players in the league, in your opinion?
This is in no particular order. So I've got Nate Darling from Delaware, big offensive threat, scoring a ton of points this year. Really, really important to what the Blue Hens have done. I've got Jashur Bowie from Hofstra, who I think really needs, like, we've been talking about him all year, but I think doesn't maybe even get enough credit. It's a guy who last year was basically a second option on offense, or maybe even a third option on offense, a really good perimeter defender, but that was kind of it. And we asked whether he could step up and score more, whether that would be Pemberton. But Bowie has really taken on the mantle on both ends of the floor. He's leading them in scoring, still does all the defensive work, still distributes the ball extremely well to an attack that the 5 starters on that team all average in double figures. It's a really balanced offense, and he's the fulcrum of it. And I wanted to meditate on him for just a second because he's been really, really good. Next is Jordan Rowland from Northeastern. Little more that we can say about Jordan Rowland as well. You want offensive efficiency. he's your guy, just an absolute stud, scoring the ball and doing so at an efficient clip. Really not a whole lot else to say, except he's an awesome scorer and a lot of fun to watch. That same goes for Grant Riller at Charleston. Yet another excellent season from Charleston's do-everything guard, a guy who, very understandably, given all of his various attributes, ability to score inside, outside, go downhill, drive the ball, distribute, is on the radar for NBA teams as a sort of a second-round draft pick at this point. We wouldn't be surprised to see him on an NBA roster next season. And then last but not least is Nathan Knight, who I think is in a league with a bunch of good players that we just listed. He's one of the two or three, maybe alongside Luka Garza and Vernon Carey at Duke. He's probably the second or third best big man in the country in all of college basketball, all of Division I this season. An absolute beast, double-double machine. And really the reason why William & Mary is on the cusp of a possibility of getting in the NCAA tournament. It's going to be fascinating to see for a player of his quality, whether or not he can lift William & Mary once and for all here. But he's had a fantastic season and a fantastic career down in Williamsburg.
Those were Eamonn's first and second all CAA teams. Like I said, if the season were to end today, we have a couple games left in the regular season and time to hand out some individual awards. Let's begin with your Rookie of the Year award. A lot of great freshmen in the league this year, but which one, in your opinion, stood amongst them all here late in the season?
Yeah, so I've got Hunter McIntosh as my Rookie of the Year. I think there's plenty of good options in the league this year, but I think McIntosh, particularly lately, has kind of separated himself. If you look at what Elon has done down the stretch, and senior Marcus Sheffield has been a big part of that. Mike Schraggy's sort of coaching and guidance with these guys has put them in position to win games. But I think McIntosh has been excellent and is a big reason why I think if looking ahead a little bit at this Elon team moving forward, with two or three of his classmates. And what Mike Schraggy's building moving forward, I think it's going to be a really good team. If not next year, I think it'll be an approved team next year, but definitely, a year or two down the line. And frankly, right here and now, this is a team in position to possibly get the sixth spot in the CAA tournament. I think McIntosh has been a big part of that.
Hunter McIntosh, Eamonn's pick for CAA Rookie of the Year. Let's go to Defensive Player of the Year. Which defender out there has impressed you the most, and you would give the Conference Defensive Player of the Year award to?
Yeah, I've gone for William & Mary's Luke Lowy. Defensive Player of the Year is always tough. I think it's difficult to imagine where they would be without him and his ability to guard pretty much every night the team's best player. He gives them good work on the offensive end, so it's not the kind of Defensive Player of the Year pick where he hurts his team on the offensive end. You do get that sometimes where you almost wish you could sub a guy out every possession. That's not Luke Lowy. He's really efficient, low volume, but always in the right spots on offense. And then you look at him defensively, and like I said, he typically guards the other team's best player, which in this league means your Grant Rillers and your Jordan Rollins and your Nate Darlings. It's not an easy assignment. And he's held up really well all season long. So that would be my pick for Defensive Player of the Year.
Luke Lowy, Eamonn's pick for CAA Defensive Player of the Year. And let's move on to Coach of the Year. A lot of great storylines in the CAA this year, but who would you give the Coach of the Year award to at the end of the day?
Sure. So I was a little torn on this because I think if you look at Elon and Elon being in position to potentially avoid four games in 4 days at the CAA tournament based on what they've done in the league. And there's a really strong argument for Mike Schraggy, but I think at the end of the day, for this year's Coach of the Year in the CAA, I go Joe Mahalet. I think if you look at what Hofstra has done and what he's done with Hofstra, the way he's put that team together, the cohesion they have among their five starters, his willingness to play those guys big minutes and just kind of get spot stuff from other guys off the bench and not have, a guy getting 50 or 60% minute share coming off the bench, but just let those top five guys work the way they do. I think it's really impressive, and he's gotten almost, I would say, the max, especially on the offensive end, out of a really good group of players, and I think that's Coach of the Year material to me. Hofstra clearly the best team in this league right now, and I think it's deserving.
Absolutely, Coach Mahalet, especially since they had to replace a scorer like Justin Wright Foreman and to return this year and do what they've done has been very impressive indeed. And in the last award that you would give out if the season were to end today, the Player of the Year award, who would that go to, Eamonn?
It's Nathan Knight. He is one of the 2 or 3 best bigs in all of college basketball, one of the most productive bigs in all of college basketball. You look at any metric, player efficiency rating, offensive rating, rebound rate, like everything, win shares. He is the clear elite player in this conference and has been for a good long while. It's going to be, as I mentioned earlier when we were talking about his all-conference inclusion, it's going to be really interesting to see now what William and Mary does with the last few weeks of his career for the Tribe, because it's a guy that, he's one of those mid-major guys that really deserves to play in the NCAA tournament. So we'll see how things play out, but at the very least, he is the clear Player of the Year in the CAA for me at this point.
Those were Eamonn's all CAA awards. If the season were to end today, obviously, like we said, a couple more games left in the regular season, and some of that can change as we move forward into next week. But speaking of next week, the conference tournament coming up, and Eamonn, we'll be seeing you in Washington, D.C. They'll be part of our Flow Hoops broadcast of the first 2 days of the tournament, and there's going to be lots of other social media activity coming from the conference with you, and we look forward to that, and I'm sure you're looking forward to the tournament too, as the CAA goes to Washington, D.C. at the Entertainment Sports Arena for the first time coming up next weekend.
Yeah, for people who haven't been to the Entertainment Sports Arena, actually, I really like it. It's an intimate venue. It's, for people who don't know, it's where the Washington Mystics play, and it hosts esports events and all sorts of other stuff. But it's brand new. It's really nice. It's a perfect size, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun this year and for many years to come for the CAA to have their tournament there. It's a really, to me anyway, like a smart place to host your conference tournament, and what should be a really fun place to host it. So I'm looking forward to it. I think beyond the building itself, the basketball is going to be a lot of fun. There's nothing quite like a conference tournament in March for me, with an NCAA tournament bid on the line. And so, yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Looking forward to digging in with you guys and seeing you all in DC.
Absolutely. Well, we'll see you next week. Eamonn, thank you for joining us again today, and enjoy the rest of the regular season in CAA play.
Will do. Take care, Bobby.